Well, I hope that you are enjoying this month of October where we are really putting our emphasis and our thoughts on God's heartbeat for the continent of Africa. And it's just been a wonderful time. The first Sunday of this month when Bete was with us, talked to us about what's happening in Ethiopia with Project Mercy. And then last week we had Saul and Manuela Ba, and they kind of caught us up to date on what God's doing in Gambia. And by the way, Saul had just a magnificent time while he was here. It is very obvious that God had touched him physically with what he's been going through. I'm going to tell you something. He was able to run the schedule with us this week. He went to Chicago for the district conference, and I don't think he missed anything. And it was just awesome to see how God is raising him back up. So continue to just rejoice in God's complete healing for Saul and for God to do what he's going to do in Gambia. You know, I haven't mentioned this, but I really want to say a special thank you to the people who have done the decorations of this building for this month of October. It's just been amazing. And I especially have to say just real hats off to Dave Hablitzel, to Ray Hunt. I think Jim Liechty got in on some of that, and Joe Regario. I don't know who all did, but I know, I want to tell you, Dave is a genius when it comes to doing this work with the foam. It's just amazing what he does. And it didn't hurt at all that Ray took engineering in college, because those don't fall down, they stay up there. And so I'm just grateful to you guys, because it's just helped us to have great visuals of what our focus is as we are looking at this month. And you know, it's hard to believe that it was just a little over a year ago that Grace and I and a group left here and went to the opposite side of Africa from Gambia. Gambia is over there in the red, just barely, you can see it over there at the heart. And then we went to Zambia, which is the yellow below the blue. I'm sorry. I tell you, I did well in geography. The blue, as I was saying earlier, down below, is Zambia. And so we went and had just an incredible time there with Princess. And she's just been an inspiration in our life for several years, and just the wonderful privilege of knowing her since, I believe it was 2011 when we met for the first time. But I want to tell you something. When we got to Zambia, we found out that she has two angels on the ground with her all the time, in both Susan and Metrinah. And I'm just so bummed that Susan, we weren't able to get things worked out for her visa to get here. But hey, you know what? There's always next year, isn't there? So we're not going to give up on that one. But it's such a wonderful privilege to have Metrinah with us all the way from Zambia. And I want you to welcome her to LifeBridge, to Fort Wayne, as she comes to join me here on the platform. We're going to talk a little bit this morning. Welcome, Metrinah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we're good. Well, Metrinah, it is wonderful to have you in Fort Wayne.
Thank you.
And this is the very first time that Metrinah has been to the United States. And so we made sure that she saw some of the shrines that we have here in America. She went to McDonald's. She's been to Walmart. So
I didn't want to leave there.
And then yesterday, we took her up to Roger and Shelley Deem's farm, and you had a whole nother experience there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
It was
incredible.
pretty amazing. She rode a horse.
Mm-hmm.
She got to see a hog and some little pigs up close, and the privilege of smelling how wonderful they smell. And then one of their neighboring farmers has a longhorn cow, like you see in Texas. Texas came to Indiana. And so you actually got to feed that cow some corn,
I
didn't you?
did.
Yeah. And you're pretty brave. You didn't back off any of that. It was
Well,
amazing.
I had Roger. I trusted him.
You trusted Roger?
Yes.
Well, Shelley probably needs to talk to you a little bit. But no, Roger and Shelley were both great hosts. And then I actually went over, and Chris Pranger was harvesting his soybean crop, and you actually got to ride in the combine, didn't you?
I did.
So a lot of farming experience. And then last night, for the first time in her life, she had crab legs. And were they as good as I said they were?
They were. They were just a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, they are a little bit of work, but boy, they're so good. Now, the one thing that she said to me after I said, so you've had crab legs, she said, yeah, but you promised me lobster.
He did. When he was in Zambia, he was like,
I
come
told
to
her
America.
if she came to the U.S. that we would get lobster. So, Mark, do you think when we come tour your place on Thursday that Paul is down there may have some lobster? But anyway, it's just been so good to have you here with us and just enjoy it so much. And we're all excited about the school that when we went over, we looked at, I think we saw 400 different locations. And we drove about 8,000 miles over the worst roads that I've ever been on in my life, except when I went to Gambia. And I may be exaggerating a little bit, but we did go a lot of places, didn't we?
We did. And actually, I was really easy on you.
Yeah, she knew that I was one of these spoiled Americans, so she did take it pretty easy on us. And so when we were there, we were looking at potential places that a school could be built where there's such need. And then came back home, talked to you as a church about it, and I am just so grateful because you responded in an amazing way, and we were able to raise $35,000 to build a school. That's just awesome. So I think, Metrinah, they're going to put a picture on the screen of what a completed school building looks like. So that's an example of what a completed building looks like. And then I think we have a picture of the inside. There we go. So that's what is coming where we were. Now, I think we've got some pictures of the progress that's going on, so why don't you talk to us a building, maybe tell us where it is and the progress on the construction.
Is it going to come up now?
Yeah, we let's get that first picture up. There we go.
Okay, so that is Chonkuma Community School. That is a school that Pastor Bill and Tim adopted when they came to Zambia. So that's the current stage we're at right now. That's a typical 1x3 block. It's got 3 classroom blocks and then 2 offices, 2 very tiny offices in between. And before this one, there's a building on the other end. That was the original building that was there. It was a very dilapidated building, and that's the only building that school had, the community had, and children would have to walk like 20 kilometers from various villages just to get to that building just so they can get an education, which was really sad. And so when I took the team there, they had their eyes set on this one, and so we started building it, and that's our current status right now. That is one of the classrooms. That is how it would look like. Yeah.
So that's
You can
pretty
run them
amazing,
through
isn't
all
it?
of them.
And so how much longer will it be before it's actually completed?
Well, we can actually complete it. Well, we're not like Roger. Roger said they complete a building even in a month. It takes quite longer for us because we try to engage the community, so we get local contractors. But they do not have much manpower. So typically, it would take us about 6 months if we didn't have any challenges, and also if we strategize with the weather, because that is one of our challenges, trying to get material out there. It's it's a dead road. Like, it takes you, how many hours was it, Pastor Bill, that took us to get there?
It took about 400 hours to go 12 miles.
Well, it took us the whole day to get there. Now, you can imagine it in the rain season. The roads are so bad and it is not accessible. So that is really hard, trying to get building material out there. So we have to strategize about that and send it out well in time before the rains. And if everything is working out okay, then we can be done in 6 months. But then the other challenge we would have sometimes is, because we have to partner with the community has to make a contribution of about 10 to 20%. Not that it's not that we need them to make that contribution, because we're short on that money, because you've given towards that building. We can complete that building, but we try to engage them to make that contribution, just so they can take ownership of the building. They need to own that building. They need to feel like they contributed, that is theirs, and take care of it. So if they're not doing their part, they don't make the contribution of maybe sand, stones. I think we found that it was one of the problems when Pastor Bill visited one of the other schools, and you felt bad that the project is lagging behind, and you felt, no, we can buy this for them. You made a contribution, which was good, and we're thankful for it, but we really try to encourage them to do that themselves.
Yeah. And so Fountain of Life, which is the organization that Princess founded, that you're now, I don't know if your official title is the project director or the African director, or what is your official title?
I am the program operations manager, Fountain of Life Africa.
Okay. And so you are the person who basically makes it happen on the ground in Africa.
Yes.
And I will tell you this, I watch, because you look, and Metrinah just seems so gentle and just mild-mannered, doesn't she?
I am.
I watched her when we were at some of the construction sites talking to the guys that were doing the building. I'm going to tell you something. They said, yes, ma'am. They were towing the line. You do know how to make it happen.
Somebody has to.
So tell us, I know Fountain of Life builds schools and also then clinics. Tell us a little bit about what's going on right now with Fountain of Life.
Okay, so currently, I'm actually really excited this year. We have very interesting projects that we just started. Like, for the very first time, we're building a secondary school. That is a school that runs from the 8th grade up to the 12th grade. Usually in those places that we work in, schools only run from the 1st grade to the 7th grade. And when most students get to the 7th grade and they're done, they really feel that's it. Like, they don't know what to do next, because secondary schools mostly are maybe in towns, and so their parents need to send them to town. And most of the time, these parents, they're poor. They cannot afford to do that. So that's it. The kids feel that's the end of the road for them. And so we're trying to show them, to let them know there's more to this. You need to go to secondary school, then you need to at least aspire to go to a college, and trying to expose them to that, because they do not know that. So we recently started a secondary school. I'm excited about that one. And also we build clinics and hospitals. We've done a maternity wing so far, and it came fully equipped. And we're currently building a health post as well, a few kilometers from, well, you do not know kilometers, right? Maybe miles.
Miles, yeah.
A few miles?
And I couldn't begin to translate it for you.
So a few miles from, remember the central post in Chibombo? Yeah. Because also health is one of the issues that are there in Zambia. We have so many people come in long distances just to get to a hospital or a clinic. And the nearest hospital we have in Chibombo is, well, there are different areas, so depending on where they're coming from, but the longest they'll travel is over 100 kilometers on those rough roads that you found there just to get to a hospital. There was actually a really sad story. I overheard myself, I was there. I was with the district medical officer. We were trying to strategize and plan on the new mini hospital we want to start. And so he received a call saying, no, there was a woman who just gave birth. It was a home birth. And then it's like she lost a lot of blood. So they were trying to get her to a hospital just so she can get blood, what do you call it? Blood transfusion,
Yep.
yes. So they were trying to get her to hospital to get a blood transfusion, but then on the way there, they have to ride. They're poor, so they can only use a bicycle, a motorbike, for those who can afford that. So somebody was taking on a motorbike, and then they had called an ambulance. But for an ambulance to get to where she was, it would take the whole day. So the ambulance was there trying to meet her along the way, but yes, somehow I think they missed each other because there's no communication that side. There's no network anyway, and so she died along the way. It was really sad. So when he got that call, I was there. I was like, the only thing she needed was a blood transfusion. Yeah. That's it. They lost her anyway. So we hear such sad stories almost every day. So this year, Fountain of Life thought maybe if we get a mini hospital put in that area, like all the way out there, where at least they can just have maybe a lab or something that would really help. So I'm really excited about that one. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a mini hospital.
Yeah, it's neat what you guys are doing, and on the surface, it's almost overwhelming when you go and you see, and yet, you have to start and do what you can, and that's what you guys are doing with Fountain of Life. And so it's amazing. The school, and I assume this will be true with the one that we're helping to build, but most of the schools actually run 2 different sections of classes through a day, a morning and an afternoon, right?
Yes. So like your school, LifeBridge, which is Chonkoma, has got approximately 700 students.
Wow.
And this is only from the 1st grade to the 7th grade.
Yeah.
So they really need to share a classroom. So most of the times, I don't know if I ever took you to a classroom going on with that, but they would even have 2 classes going on at the same time. They will have the other class facing the other side, the other class facing the other side, just so they can all have enough space to learn. And then after that, they need to use the classroom about 3 times a day. So we have students coming in the morning, and they would knock off, and then students coming in the afternoon and late afternoons. So that is how they get to share those classrooms.
It's amazing. It really is. Mm-hmm. So the other evening when you met with some of our church council, missions council, and staff, you shared a little bit about how you came to Fountain of Life. Why don't you share with the church this morning how God worked it out for you to be where you are today?
Yes, God is amazing. So coming to Fountain of Life, I feel I need to share the story of how I came to know Christ, first of all. It happened when I was in university. I really didn't grow up in a Christian home. Well, my mom would go to church Sundays, and my dad just, no, never. And so I grew up believing, Christianity was just go to church on Sunday, try to balance between bad and good, and you're fine. But then I got to university. I went through a really rough patch. That was just a year I thought I was graduating. I had some personal issues going on, and then went to school. I was told, no, you're not graduating this year. You have an extra year. So I was depressed. I mean, everybody I knew, all my friends were graduating, and I thought I'd done everything right. Why am I not graduating? They told me there was a mix-up in modules. Apparently, I'd done a wrong module, and that the required one is to be done still. So I need an extra year for me to complete. So that really broke my heart. But in my depression, one day I feel God talk to me. I got this. All of a sudden, I heard someone tell me, it was, don't be sad. It's okay. Let your friends graduate. Your organization is not yet set up, so you need to wait. So I got up. For once, I just said that. I was motivated. I was happy again. So I went out. I started telling everybody. I told my parents, you know what? It's fine. I'll stay a year longer. It's okay. I know my organization is not yet set up in Zambia because where I'm going to work, it's going to be amazing. It's a big organization, and I'm just looking forward to that. But they're not yet set up in Zambia. So everybody thought she's just comforting herself. And so I kept affirming that. I kept declaring that. I would tell everybody. And so fast forward, my time to graduate. I graduated. Immediately after that, my dad came to me, presented me with a book. It was Princess Kasune's book, The Warrior Princess. So it was like, I feel like this is something you need to read. You are that kind of person. I feel you'll relate to this. So I got the book. I'm like, okay, let's see what this is about. I read it. It was incredible. So I went to my parents. I need to meet this woman. Who is she? Whatever she's doing, I feel this is what I am called to do. I need to go out there. I need to help people in some way, one way or another. I don't know, but I feel she's my connection. So my parents were like, okay, we'll find a way to get in touch with her. And then fast forward, surprisingly, somebody else I was linked to told me, hey, listen, there's actually a job opening at Fountain of Life. So I didn't know what Fountain of Life was yet. And no, I did after I read the book. So he told me there's an opening at Fountain of Life. I just didn't know it was connected to Princess. It was like, you can send an application. Let's see if they'll accept it. Then he mentioned Princess' name. I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to do that. So, well, the opening was for project management. And I had just graduated right out of school. And all I had was a degree in sociology and industrial psychology. It's like, I'll try. It's okay. So I gave in my application and I was invited for an interview. The day of my graduation, I got that email, like, you can come through for an interview. So I had to rush back home, go for my interview. And a few days afterwards, the executive director, Maximo, is calling me back and saying, you got the job. It was just amazing because when I went for my interview, I found this guy. He was working for World Vision and he had 7 years experience. So I was like, there's no way I'm getting this job. He's got 7 years experience and he knows what he's doing. I'm just fresh from school. I don't know if I can do this. But he called me and told me I got the job. I was just so amazed by it, and I just feel God wanted me to be there. And then I just found out, actually, Fountain of Life was just setting up in Zambia that year. They are just opening up that organization, setting up. So everything I was affirming, it's like everything just fell into place. It was just so amazing.
So what God had told you the year before, now was actually happening.
It was happening.
Yeah.
It was being set up right in front of me. Everything happened just...
And that was good preparation because that taught you to learn to depend on Him and to pray.
Yes.
Because you probably do need that from time to time, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I remember when we were stuck out in the middle of nowhere and I was looking for a helicopter. That's what I pray for them, is a helicopter. is that I think Parkview just ought to donate their helicopter to Zambia. But I remember we're stuck in the middle of nowhere and car in the mud. But say this, Metrinah knew what to do. She had a tow rope in her car that was able to let one pull the other one out. But I thought about how many times you and Susan are out like that and there's not a whole group with you. And you really do have to trust God, don't you?
I do. I do.
It's amazing. And even you told us with your passport or with your visa, you had a few challenges there, did you?
I did. That was another story. And I think I've been told Princess and Mark. I was like, this had God written all over it. I think I'm meant to come there.
I think so too.
Yeah, it was really, well, there was a moment there I thought I'm not going to get my visa. Well, coming from Zambia, coming this side, it's really hard to get a U.S. visa. That is why Susan can't be here with us today. That visa wasn't granted. But, so I prepared mine well in advance. I thought I had everything set, everything was ready. And so the day of my interview, I get there and I remove all my forms and ready to go for my interview. So one lady looks at my passport size photos and she's like, oh no, that's the wrong size of photos. You're not supposed to have that one. It's American standard size, not the UK standard size. So they'll look at that and they're just going to deny your visa. So you need to quickly go and retake that. But it was too late. I was just about to go in. How am I going to do that? And I panicked. I tried to do that. I actually went to a photo booth just to have that taken. I found we're currently experiencing a lot of load shedding. I don't know if you know that in Zambia. So there was no electricity. Half the town power was cut down, so they couldn't use any machine. No one could take a photo of me and right there and then. So I was just really upset. Got back there. Security guard told me the same thing. That is wrong. They won't accept that. They're really strict. They've got these rules. If you just do not abide by them, they will not give you a visa. So, so many people are now speaking in my ears telling me this will not happen. So I just held my breath and I started praying. I was there, right? I was just about to go there in now, and so I started praying. Actually, I started speaking in tongues. So I prayed and prayed, and just right before I was called in, I was like, Lord, you brought me this far. I feel there's a reason I need to go there, and I cannot go back. I cannot be rejected. Lord, today, you're bending the rules for me. You will do that. So right after that, I was called in. And the first counter, this American man asked for my passport size photo and my confirmation. So I held it, looked at it, and I told him, so before I hand you this, there's a slight problem. I think this is not the right size that I'm supposed to give you, but I only found that out now. So you tell me if it's too late, if I can reschedule my appointment, or should I just give it to you now? So it's like, why would you want to reschedule? Okay, let me look at it, but it's true. We do not accept any other sizes apart from the American standard size, and yeah, this shouldn't even happen, but anyway, let me have a look at it. Let's see if I can scan it. As long as I get it into the system, then you'll be fine. So he got my thing, my photo, and I continued my tongues, started praying. And while he was doing that, next thing was a beep beep, and he was like, there we go. It's good. You don't have to worry about this, so you can go forward.
That's awesome. That is awesome, isn't it? Well, I know that one of the things that before you came, you let us know that I'm pretty excited about is that you wanted to be baptized in water here at LifeBridge.
Yes.
Now, why would you want to be baptized at LifeBridge?
Well, mostly it's because I've taken many baptism classes, but I never get the chance to be baptized. So every time, well, in Zambia, there's always a set date for when there'll be baptisms. So I'll take the classes, but whenever it's time for baptism, I would either be out working somewhere or I'd travel somewhere. I'm never around. So when your team came to Zambia last year, there was, believe it or not, a connection with this team. I received so many teams, so many different people, so many donors, and yes, I do bond with them, but there was this different atmosphere with the Life Bridge group. It was so heavy, and I told Princess about it. I was like, something about this group. It's like they carry this anointing around them. It's just, it was just so amazing to always to be around you. I felt like I connected with all of you. I mean, the times I would spend with all of you just talking, I really got acquainted with Marianne, and we prayed a lot together, and she even left me a Bible. It's like she came at a point where she just needed to be there. So when I knew I was coming this side, I was like, this is it. I think I need to be baptized, and I want this church to baptize me. I want Pastor Bill, Pastor Grace to baptize me.
Well, I want to tell you, it's an honor and privilege for us to be able to do that today. And I'm going to let you go get ready to be baptized, and then we're going to do that right here this morning. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Okay. It's amazing, and that is humbling to me to hear what Metrinah just said, because isn't that what our prayer ought to be, is that there would be an obvious presence of God that we didn't contrive, but God did it. And that's what I want for us to be. And God has given us such a burden for the continent of Africa. And for years, the connection we've had with Demi and Marta, and now with Bete with Project Mercy, has just been a strong connection. And then with Saw Manuela, it was just obvious that God bonded us together. And now then Princess, and then Metrinah and Susan. I can't wait for you to meet Susan. You're going to love her as much as Metrinah. And it was just amazing what we felt when we were there. And it's a strange mixture because it's very overwhelming when you see the need. But then you see people who, just like Metrinah and Princess and Saul and Manuela and Bete and Marta and Demi, who've answered the call and who've been willing to pour out their lives in ways. I will tell you, when we went to the place called Ibis, where we stayed most of the time we were there, it's kind of like going to an old trailer court in the U.S. in the 1950s. And I'll never forget, we were all in these little cabins. And Metrinah is the gracious person you've seen today. That's just who she is. And I remember that when she was taking Grace and I to our cabin, I had noticed I've looked for things like this. There were little compressors outside the other units for AC. As we're getting closer to ours, I don't see a compressor. I'm a little concerned because it's hot. And so I said to Metrinah, I said, now I understood that our cabins were going to be air conditioned. She says, well, some of these are and some of them aren't. And she said, so I can see what I can do. And I'm looking at her, and she's being so nice, and I'm thinking on the inside, she's going, you are one spoiled American. Because she just graciously said, usually when I'm here, I just turn the ceiling fan on because I never stay in one with air conditioning. And I'm thinking, oh, dear God. And I said, we'll be okay. And you know what? We were. And it was really a jolt to me of realizing how soft we are. And it made me wonder, if God really required something significant of me, would I be willing to do it? Because a lot of times the things that I complain about are things that aren't that big a deal. As Lisa Dan frequently says, when you tell her something you're dealing with, she goes, first world problem. because most of our problems are first world problems. We don't even know what third world problems are like. And yet the potential of what God does and raising people up. Isn't it amazing that God had prepared Metrinah long before it was time for her to meet princes, and it prepared the whole thing, a fountain of life, for her to become who she is today in leading that ministry. And now what God's doing with them, and I'm going to tell you this, Metrinah's young. She's got a lot of life ahead of her. And it's going to be fun to watch through the years, what does God do with her life in all the future plans that he has even beyond where she is today. And so it's just an exciting thing and just such an honor to baptize her. You know, this is what is really cool. When we went to Gambia, Chico was with us, and he really led Fatu to the Lord, Saul's sister. And so she came to the U.S. to visit. She was scared to death of water. And so when we were there, we talked about baptizing her, and she just was so scared of water, and nobody pushed it. So when she came here to visit, she asked, could she be baptized while she was here? Now, we didn't do it in a service like this because she was pretty nervous, but she was baptized right over here. Chico baptized her. And I think it's pretty cool that we have now baptized residents of Gambia and Zambia both in Lifebridge Church. And I believe it's prophetic, which, by the way, when we were in Thailand a few years ago, I helped Pastor John baptize people in Thailand. I think we're going to baptize a lot more people in the days ahead, both in this baptistry and in those places where God sends us to be a part of ministry around the world. But I just am so honored today for us to have the privilege for Pastor Grace and I think this is pretty cool too. This is Pastor Grace's first time as an ordained minister to baptize someone. Are we ready? Yeah. All right. Okay, Metrinah. Now, you met Katrina from Zambia. Now meet Katrina from the U.S. Look at the change in outfit. Which, by the way, you need to pray for Metrinah. She's been here for a few days. She'll leave here next Saturday, and she goes to California, to San Francisco, and Los Angeles. So she's going to see another part of American culture in a few days. And so that's going to be its own experience. But Metrinah, this is such a wonderful privilege today, and just such an honor for Pastor Grace and I to baptize you. And because of your profession of faith, well, I loved what she said, that with the passport or the visa was the wrong picture size, she just started praying in tongues. I'm going to tell you something, it works. So today it's just an honor and privilege to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That is awesome. Stretch out your hands toward Metrinah. We're going to pray for her. Father, I thank you for this, one of your favorite daughters. And Father, I thank you for the heart that you have placed inside of her. I thank you that you have raised her up, that you've given her a mentor like Princess Zulu. But I thank you that also, God, you have a call on her life that is just as powerful. God, she's going to change Zambia for your glory. And I just pray that you would touch her today. I pray that there would just be a mighty portion of health in her physical body, that God, you would raise her up with amazing strength beyond the natural, that Father, you would touch her, that you would continue to anoint her with the fullness of your Holy Spirit, and that all the days of her life she will be used as a powerful vessel for your kingdom, for your glory, for your honor. And I thank you, oh God. I thank you, oh God, for your hand on this dear child of ours and yours, Metrinah. Metrinah, I heard Sarah refer to you as the lioness. And that is such a good description. You are a mighty woman of God. And the dreams that God has put in your heart are far bigger than you can do in yourself. But God has empowered you with His Spirit, and you listen to His voice. And because of that, in just the same way that when things weren't going right for you to graduate when you were supposed to, God had other plans. And instead of fretting, you surrendered to the will of God. And as a result, you graduated at just the right time for Fountain of Life, because God had been ordaining and preparing the ministry for you that you were to walk into. There are doors ahead of you that you will walk through in the years that are ahead. And God, the favor that He has given you, is going to go before you. And you will stand in front of kings and presidents. You will stand in front of powerful business leaders. You will stand in front of professionals, doctors, attorneys. You will stand in front of educators. And you will have a commanding presence that they will follow, because God's hand is upon you, and God is going to say to you, this is the way, lead them in it. And you're going to say to them, this is the way God has said, follow me as we follow Him. And you are going to see amazing things as God transforms the nation and uses you as a powerful instrument in His hand to lead the way. So, leader, step forward. Be all God's called you to be. Walk under the covering of princes, but know that in the same way that God called Elisha to serve under Elijah, it's going to be a day somewhere in the future, I don't know where it is, in Prince's great dramatic way, she's going to throw you the mantle. And you've watched Elijah. You're going to continue to watch Elijah. But get ready, Elisha. Elisha did twice as much as Elijah did. And so, princess, as you're Elijah, you're God's Elisha, the lioness of Zambia. Can you give glory and honor to God in the house? Bless you.